You are tuning into Mad Genius Live. Stick around because I've got James Briscione talking about his new book, The Flavor Matrix. He's teaching me how to pair mustard greens with wine and red wine with fish. Good morning, everybody. My name is Justin Chapple. I am Food and Wine's culinary director and the resident Mad Genius, and your host every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. across the World Wide Web, if we're calling it that anymore. If you're following along, thank you, and we want you to join the conversation. We want your comments, we want your questions, because we are live. So use the hashtag MadGeniusLive and hit us up. I have a special guest today, another special guest today. Everyone, I would like to introduce you to James Briscione.
What's up, guys?
James, welcome.
Justin,
thanks so much for coming on the show. You had to walk up exactly one flight of stairs?
Two flights.
Two flights of
stairs to get here. coming right from the Institute of Culinary Education, just right downstairs, right here in this building.
And so what do you do for the Institute of Culinary Education?
So I'm the Director of Culinary Research, but I'm also a full-time teacher. So I'm kind of in the kitchens at ICE every day with our students, but at the same time, keeping my eye out on the world, watching people like you, making sure we're keeping up, we're staying genius right along with you. But always looking at technology, modern cooking techniques, everything, making sure that whatever we're teaching at ICE is the same as what our students are going to walk into when they go to a restaurant.
Right. So ICE is one of the big culinary schools here in New York City, and it's really great, and it happens to be downstairs from the Food and Wine New York Test Kitchen, and we are talking about James' new book, The Flavor Matrix. We actually featured it in the April issue of Food and Wine because it's an incredible book. It's really exciting, and just touching on what you said about what you do for ICE, you teach, this book is all about teaching. So it's the art and science of pairing with ingredients, right?
Of flavor, kind of understanding flavor, how it's constructed, and how to use that information to be a better and more creative cook. I mean, I've worked in restaurants for over 12 years, and in my time at ICE, we started this project with IBM, working with the Chef Watson, kind of helping IBM develop this Chef Watson computer, basically, that could help chefs become more creative.
Right.
When we started that project, I thought, no way is a computer going to teach me anything about cooking that I don't already know. I've been doing this for a lot longer, and what the hell does a computer know?
What the heck does a computer know?
We got in and started working on this project, and I was blown away by the way Watson was analyzing flavor, thinking about combinations, and coming up with pairings. And that information just blew my mind. But it's very complex. There's a lot of chemistry involved. It can be kind of hard to grab, and there's really no resources for it anywhere. So I got interested in this. I wanted to learn more about it, started looking, realized that information didn't exist. So, hey, I'm going to go create it and share it with everybody.
And so one of the reasons obviously we're huge fans of the book because it teaches so many great things, and at Food and Wine we don't just care about the food, we also care about the wine. And so we have this really great feature in the April issue of Food and Wine, and we obviously write about the book, we talk about how cool it is, and then we had James feature some of his favorite recipes from the book, one of which we're going to start making now, which is, do you want to tell us what we're making?
We are doing pan-roasted red snapper, going with an apple, strawberry, cherry tomato, and basil salsa.
Awesome. And if you check out the April issue of Food and Wine, and I know we just threw up the graphic, we could do it again if you'd want, but it basically shows how each of the components, how you break down a dish and how each component kind of plays with the wine. Yeah. And that's how you end up pairing it.
And it's really, it's exactly how we go about the pairings, and really it's how we kind of, how I hope the Flavor Matrix will teach people to think about pairings, whether it be wine or just the ingredients, or, trying to spice up a piece of fish for a Wednesday night meal, right? And that's really, it's some complex concepts that are really sort of high-minded, but the end result is like a more interesting dinner on a Wednesday night. It's not, the recipes are in there, they're not complex, they're simple, they're approachable, and they're just kind of interesting and different. And that's what we were really getting after in the book.
And that's what we love at Food and Wine. We love to reinvent classic recipes. So let's get started. So you have your fish. So this is basically a two-part dish. You have your fish and you have your salsa. So what should I do? I can help you out.
Okay, you want to do apple here? You want to do apples, strawberries? I'll do apple. We're gonna go into that bowl. So
I'm gonna grab the paring knife here.
Oh, thank you.
So I heated your pan up for you too, so that
Excellent.
When
So
you're
maybe
ready
we
to
should
get
get
the,
that. We'll get that fish
I forgot a compost bowl.
in just a second.
Let's use one of these. We can put our compost.
You know, and I love kind of finding these unexpected combinations and ingredients, and that's really, you know, what we're doing in the flavor matrix is showing you kind of where flavor comes from and why certain flavors go well together. And it's really about, and this is something, you know, I learned when we were working on Chef Watson. We had to approach everything we created with Chef Watson with a completely blank slate. You know, you've been doing this for years, I've been doing this for years. You know, we have that kind of mental Rolodex of, hey, what ingredients go together? You say strawberries, and you're automatically going to go to, you know, some of your favorite, probably sweet combinations with strawberries. We had to, when we started this project, we had to just say, okay, where does strawberry flavor come from? And what makes a strawberry taste the way it does?
Right.
And let's look at that and not, you know, necessarily think about, you know, whatever. What do you think about when you go strawberries? What's the first thing you're reaching for?
I mean, the first thing I would reach for is a white, probably, because, I don't know, I think of it as being fruity and kind of light and fresh and springy and summery all in one. So, I mean, I would definitely go for that. But one of the reasons I wanted to have James demonstrate this recipe today was because it was so fun and surprising. The combination of this like kind of fruit salsa with something like fish.
And we're going, right, so we're going fruit salsa and fish and red wine.
Which isn't fruit, this kind of fruit salsa. And do you want me to finish the apple and then you could, oh wait, I still have to cut these. You're faster than me. The fruit combo with the fish isn't necessarily new, but what's really interesting is that James pairs it with a red wine, which is like kind of spectacular and, or dare I say, mad genius.
Again, I'm honorary mad genius for the day.
You
I
are.
like that, I'll take it. All right, so I'll get this snapper going here. Just a little bit of oil in the pan. Pan's nice and hot. Some good salt. Now, where do you stand? Do you score? Do you score or not score?
I do not score.
I don't score either. Way to go, I like it.
But what's the benefit of scoring, so people know at home? Because some people, what he means by scoring is actually, if you get a close-up of the fish here, or the one that James is holding, a lot of people tend to take a small knife and they just score the skin.
Right.
And basically means to cut through the skin, but not cut through the flesh of the fish.
And the idea, and the reason people do it is that they think it's going to keep the skin from curling up.
Yeah.
It's going to curl less, but it's not going to prevent it from curling completely. So it's a little bit of fake news there on the scoring.
But what will keep your fish from curling is what James is doing now. It's actually one of my favorite. So first of all, you're using one of my favorite. This is now the third episode in a row that we've talked about. Is this not? Can someone remind me? I think this is the third time in a row we've talked about this fish spatula. So if you do not have a fish spatula, you need to get one. And in
You're
fact,
working for Big Fish Spatula, aren't you?
apparently, I need to get sponsored by a fish spatula company. But one of the first things James said when he got here was, do you have a fish spatula? And I was like, yeah, right there, obviously, it's ready for you to go. So anyways, if you don't have a fish spatula, get it. They're thin, they're slotted, they're flexible. It's one of the most versatile tools, I think, in the kitchen. But anyways, to the point I was saying about not allowing your fish to curl. So do you want to explain what you're doing to the folks watching?
Yeah, so it's, you know, really the only way it's not going to curl is with a little bit of pressure. You know, some people will put a pan on top of the fish. I think that smashes the fish too much. When you have, you know, a nice kind of flexible spatula like this, just some gentle pressure in the first 5 to 10 seconds when the fish goes in the pan will help it to stay flat, and then it's going to allow it to sear up really nicely. And then, you know,
and that's how you get the really crisp
that's how you get that
skin.
really crispy skin.
Yeah.
Also, you know, the other thing, people get very nervous, I feel like, often when they're cooking fish, and they're worried that it is going to stick or that things are happening. You know what? My fish right now, it is sticking, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mess with it. You know, if you kind of go like this and you go, oh no, it's stuck, and then you immediately want to start, you know, digging in there and trying to pry it up, that's when it's going to go bad. Just wait. It'll release on its own once it comes to a really nice brown on the bottom. So
and
be
that's
patient
true.
with it.
But that's true for a lot of proteins.
Everything, really. You know, and also, you know, I mean, I walk away from the stove all the time. I just leave something cooking. I'm not worried. I should be cutting tomatoes while I'm doing this. You know, I just walk away from the stove. I'm not worried about, you know, holding that pan, watching it, constantly moving it, trying to make, you know, just leave it alone.
Let it go, because it'll kind of do its own thing.
We almost broke into some Frozen song there, you know, which is
Oh my
sadly.
gosh. Are we allowed to sing the Frozen song on air?
There's probably.
I mean, are there like rights issues we need to worry about?
I would assume so. I think Disney's keeping it. I mean, it's unfortunately appropriate for our spring weather here in New York City.
I'm gonna help you cut these.
All right.
I'm gonna need some for my recipe too because
These
I'm
are-
gonna be doing. This recipe actually, if you're just tuning in, we have James Briscione here. He's the director of culinary research at the Institute of Culinary Education.
Nailed it.
But more importantly, we are talking about his new book called Flavor Matrix, which is out now. If you're tuning in to Facebook, we are dropping the link to buy this incredible book in the comments. We're also posting the recipe that James is cooking, which happens to be a pan roasted snapper with this delicious strawberry apple tomato salsa. But what's really fun about it is in James' book, The Flavor Matrix, he kind of breaks dishes down, and he breaks cooking down into components, into ingredients, and teaches you how looking at each component differently helps to pair it better with wine.
Yeah, so that's, actually what we did in the book, I'll reach across here real quick, is we really broke down the actual kind of construction of flavor. I don't know, well, we're looking at the magazine right now, which I love too. That was so much fun to kind of work with, bringing the wines in. But, with ingredients, we actually created these flavor wheels for each ingredient that has an individual measure of the flavor.
Can we hold that up? I'm gonna hold it up so you guys can get a close up, because I wish that we should have been smarter, and we should have been smarter and kind of tried to get a graphic of this. Here, show this one. There you go.
Yeah. So, we all know those kind of aroma wheels from doing wine tasting and from doing coffee and beer, and they exist for all that. But they didn't exist for food, which I don't understand, because all of those aromas that we talk about in beer and wine also exist in food, and they're really where the flavor of food comes from.
Yeah.
But for some reason, we just always talk about, is something salty or sour or sweet.
Right.
So that's what we set out to do in the Flavor Matrix, was just start to understand those flavors and where those flavors come from in food. And that's how we land at these crazy ideas of putting green apples and strawberries and tomatoes on top of fish. Because you see where those ingredients kind of match up. There's these little invisible connections between ingredients that sort of tell us, hey, this is actually a good idea. It sounds weird.
So James has his snapper in the pan. We're making the salsa. So the salsa, we've got a Granny Smith apple, a green apple, which is very sour. It's very tart. Then we have the really sweet strawberries, and then we have sweet cherry tomatoes. I'm gonna grab a spoon. I'm gonna start mixing this up for us. How's it going? Is your fish doing well?
Fish is coming, see? Look at that.
Look at that.
Beautiful release.
Oh my gosh, can you guys see that? So once it's ready, it just kind of released right from the pan, and look, you get that incredibly beautiful, perfectly brown
So beautiful
skin.
brown.
Yeah.
I want to get even a little more color onto that guy. And let's see how this other one's doing. The other one's not quite there yet. We might want to crank the heat up just a little on this to
It's also a little
get it the rest of the way.
One of the things that I find really, this is something that we all notice. Like, I'm a professional cook, you're a professional cook in different capacities. But one of the things that is important is, like, you're cooking on induction and cooking on gas or cooking on electric. It's all kind of different, and you just kind of got used to it. So obviously, we're cooking on this really awesome Breville Polyscience induction burner. And the way an induction burner works, it actually heats through the pan as opposed to heating wherever the flame is on
below
the
the pan, right?
So I guess what I'm saying is, does that matter with cooking something like fish, or do you think that it's pretty much you're looking for the same outcome?
I think, I don't think it matters too much. I think, heat is heat, right? As long as, we're getting it out. I think, the beauty part of this is we can kind of watch it, and we actually know exactly what the temperature is, so we can be really precise with it. To me, the most important thing, the biggest thing about cooking, right, which we're always trying to teach our students at ICE, is just how to control the heat.
Right.
Right? So having something like this where you actually know exactly the temperature of the pan is really super helpful.
Did you put vinegar in here?
I have not added yet.
Oh my God, it already tastes so good.
Just from that apple.
Yeah, the apple is so good.
And, yes, it's fruit, but salt and pepper are so important.
Yeah, they go a really long way with this.
In that,
And one of the reasons I was so excited about this recipe was because right now I'm really into fruit salads. Allison, I don't know if you've seen Alison Roman's book. It's called Dining In, but
beautiful.
she has like a whole section on fruit salads. And before I saw it in her book, I was really excited. I was like, oh my God, I want to do like a fruit salad story. And then I saw she had a whole section in her book about fruit salad. I was like, oh shoot, she got to it first. But so this, to me, like I feel like I could, because of the pepper and the salt, I feel like I could just eat this as like a salad.
Yeah, and so, the other thing with all of these recipes, that we put in the flavor matrix, this is just a beautiful straight up salad. Oil and vinegar dressing, throw it in the cooler, bring it to the beach, bring it to the picnic. If you want to just, I say also with this, make some crostini with it. Right?
Oh, yum.
Spread some crostini with a little goat cheese, or just put it on a soft bread with some pecorino on top. Like, absolutely amazing.
And actually, so the recipe for this, we're obviously posting the recipe for this. It's the recipe that we're posting and linking to incorporates the snapper, but I think in your book, this recipe is actually a standalone.
It's a standalone on its own, so it goes really beautiful with fish. It could go on top of grilled chicken, but I do love it just sort of on its own as a salad, as a crostini. Again, you throw a little bit of cheese in there.
Yeah.
Really, especially like a good salty cheese. You could do feta. You could do pecorino is my favorite because it's like extra salty and a little funky. All
That's
works.
Delicious.
All works
it's
beautiful.
so good.
And so, also beautiful, this fish now. Right, just incredibly
Yum.
incredible brown skin, that perfect sear, right? That's where it pays to be patient.
Yeah.
To wait and let that thing cook. And or should I do? Drop
You can
that
pop
back
it
there?
right in there, yeah. And actually, while you finish plating that, I'm gonna switch sides with you because I'm gonna start getting my dish ready over here because we got two dishes we're going. I just want to bring it over here and turn it on, but then also I'm gonna bring out the wine.
Yes.
Because what's so interesting about this dish is that James, and we talk about this in the April issue of Food and Wine, James breaks it down in the flavor matrix. We talk about how you take something that's so fresh, so light, so seasonal like this beautiful snapper dish, and you're pairing it with something so unusual. I mean, the wine itself is not unusual, but the pairing is unusual. And why don't you just tell us really quick, like why we're having red wine with this?
Yeah, so this is, and what we wanted to do in the April issue was go to some of our, most common wines, like the wines that everyone's gonna go pick up at the store and, we're likely gonna have already, on their shelf. So this is an Oregon Pinot Noir.
Let me turn this down. I got sausage going over here.
That's really great, and I think, that's just such a wonderful, easy drinking wine.
Right.
You get a lot of that kind of big berry fruit up front. You usually think like raspberry, blackberry with that.
All right.
Right away, but it's got good balance. It's got, nice acidity along with those kind of forward fruits. But then, as it lingers, you're getting, a little bit floral. You're getting a little bit of that rose, right? And when we talk about those kind of secret connections between ingredients, apples and roses are very, very closely related. They have a lot of the same underlying flavors. So when you get that kind of floral fruit, apple should be one of the first things you think about. If not that, then peach. Right? And then we're reinforcing the berry with the strawberry. Mint is something that would fit in there really nicely, but we put a little savory twist on mint and go with basil instead.
Right.
Because their underlying flavors are really similar.
This is so smart to me. This recipe is definitely mad genius. If you're just tuning in, we're with James Briscione. We're talking about his new book, The Flavor Matrix, where it's the art and science of pairing. So he breaks down dishes into components in a way that allows you to better pair wine with your food. And so we have this really surprising combination here. We've got a pan-roasted red snapper with this tomato, strawberry, and green apple salsa. I mean, it's incredible. It's kind of it's almost like as if you did like a fish with like kind of a mango salsa, but you went with the strawberries and the apple. And we're drinking it. We're drinking red wine with it, which is like so incredible. So thank you. I mean, we can keep eating that. I'm gonna start to cook because so you can get the recipe for the pan roasted snapper in the comments, or you can go to foodandwine.com, or better yet, you want to grab that magazine really quick, pick up the April issue of Food and Wine. You can get James' recipe in there, but also you can get so many more recipes in his book, The Flavor Matrix.
Yes.
Okay, so now we're going to go with another recipe. This one happens to be my recipe that I developed for a wine pairing story we actually did a while ago. I'm going to move this over here so I can keep eating it.
All right.
And I'm going to ask for some help from you.
You got it.
You wouldn't
What do we
mind
need to do?
slicing those garlic cloves. There's 6 of them. I have some just sweet Italian sausage here that I browned up, obviously before. Look at James really quick. Stop what you're doing. Look at James. Watch him slice these garlic cloves. There you go. I asked James before we went live, I said, can you slice really fast? And he was like, yeah. Did you watch Chopped? And so I said, okay, then you're gonna slice the garlic and you're gonna slice the leeks. So
right.
I am making I can't remember what I call this dish, so let's just throw it up on the screen.
Pasta with mustard. I'm remembering
Pasta
for you.
with sausage and mustard greens. And oops, there, sausage down. So the reason I wanted to do this with James today was because I did this for a wine pairing story last year actually, and it's actually kind of hard to pair wine with this dish, not because of the sausage or the pasta, because those are obviously very easy to pair with wine. It's because I incorporate mustard greens into it, which we're gonna get to in a second. But so I browned some sausage off, put it here so you can look how beautiful it is. I'm gonna go over you so you can continue to drink your wine.
I like that.
And I'm gonna add, oh my gosh.
Leeks, I'm on it. Come on. Try to keep up, Justin.
Yeah. I told him I was gonna slice the leeks and he was gonna slice the garlic, but instead he could do all the work for me. All right, you wanna add that to my pan here?
There we go.
So we've got.
But that smells so great already. Just that little bit of oil and that fat from the sausage. You can really smell that fennel in there.
Oh yeah.
That that fennel note is something. So that was a huge challenge Justin threw at me. Is about all right, Mr. Science flavor guy. Help me figure out a wine for this. And so we started kind of looking at all of the flavors that are going on in that dish, and the bitter mustard greens are definitely kind of the challenge there. So I wanted to go with a lot of big acidity.
Yeah.
Oh, look at
I'm
you.
gonna pull out a check here. We cut your tomatoes the regular way. We're gonna cut mine using my Imaginius tip. Actually, for this recipe, I don't cut the tomatoes, but I just realized I don't want to take forever because I want the tomatoes to break down a little bit, so I'm gonna cut them in half.
I almost.
So I'm just gonna do that.
Said something about that. I love this trick. You need a little more leek in there? Did I cut too much?
So this is my MADGENIUS tip for slicing a whole bunch of cherry tomatoes in half. Like I said, the recipe that that we're linking to doesn't call to slice the tomatoes. I'm really only doing this for television because I want them to break down quicker.
Yeah, and that's, people, it's just a recipe.
I'm gonna go for it again.
Would you relax?
Yes, I love that you just said that because, so I have a book coming out. I'm gonna plug myself for a minute. I have a book coming out on May 1st and it's called Just Cook It, and the whole idea behind it is it's just food. Yeah. Like it's not, don't overcomplicate it, don't overthink it, and just cook it, which is, that's why I gave it the title it has.
It's just food. Be like, all right, and hey, you don't like tomatoes? Guess what? You don't have to put tomatoes in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Use something else.
You want some roasted red peppers? And that's, really in Flavor Matrix, we talk about in every time. I'm going back to my book. We talk about
That's okay. We have it right here. Should we point to it?
In every chapter, we talk about the substitutes for an ingredient, right? So whether they're based on like a texture substitute or like a really smart flavor substitute.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that ingredient, how can you get a same flavor, or how can you get it something that can kind of stand in a recipe? Because guys, it's just food. Right? At the end of the day, it's supposed to taste good. It's supposed to make you happy. So, I'm sure you get those questions all the time. You're like, "Oh, I don't like this. What should I do? Can I still make this recipe?" You're like, yeah, absolutely. Leave it out. Like this is a suggestion. I write a recipe the way I like to eat it.
Right.
It doesn't mean it's the only way it can be done. You need to have, people should have the confidence to play with the recipe a little bit and then make it the way they like to.
Yeah.
Just don't hit us up in the comments and be like, "Hey, I made your recipe and changed this, and this, and it was terrible."
Yeah, no trolls.
You're bad because of that. I'm like, no, you changed everything. It's not my fault.
But do hit us up in the comments with questions using the hashtag MADGENIUSLIVE. So if you're watching and you have a question for James, you have a question for me, hit us up, please. We want to know. We want to hear from you. If you've bought James' book or cooked any of his recipes, let us know. Let us know what you did. So we have here. We're making my sausage and pasta and whatever.
Mustard greens.
Mustard greens, there you go. So I have, in the pan here, I have 6 garlic cloves, I have a couple leeks, some cherry tomatoes I cut in half, just to kind of help them break down a little quicker. I have salt and pepper. Where's the pepper at? Here we go. I think it's almost out. And now I'm gonna add my pasta, which is right here. So will you actually grab a little bit of that pasta water?
Yes.
Oops. Jeez, I'm getting pasta everywhere. Rigatoni Mountain. Now we're walking all over. And James is a teacher. He's a culinary teacher, so he's probably judging me and scoring me on how messy I am being right now. Okay, so the reason I wanted to do this dish today was because mustard green. So we have this thing called a farm shelf. It's an hydroponic garden that we have here in the test kitchen. You saw it in the opener when we teased it. It's really cool because we could grow pretty much anything that we want out of here. And one of the things that we decided to grow this time around was mustard greens, because I happen to love mustard greens. And the team at Farm Shelf was saying that they have really, really great mustard greens. So we went with it, but now we have like a ton of mustard greens. So I was like,
time to start using them up. I love mustard greens too. So I grew up down south, and these are just a staple because they're really kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
And they're really cheap. So you see them a lot when and often cooked. Just like turnip greens or collard greens, sausage or bacon, and lots of onion. These are really great.
They're really crisp, right?
They're really crisp. They're super peppery. They're called mustard greens because they're in that mustard family, that brassica family. They have really big spice. They are actually mustardy. Like, you think about that sting you get in your nose from really good Dijon mustard. You get the exact same thing out of this green.
But the problem with that, and this is what I challenged James with, was that it actually makes it hard to pair wine with it because the tannins in wine tend to bring out, really accentuate the bitterness in bitter greens.
Yep.
So we have two wines here. I'm going to let you, where are they? Oh, they're right there.
Here we go.
So we have two wines here. So our executive wine editor, Ray Isle, gave me two wines out of our tasting room. One is California Zinfandel and from Napa Valley. And the reason why Ray wanted us to try it with this was because the Zinfandel, it's a really bold, fruity red wine, but it's low in tannins. So you can get that, like Ray actually, when he was talking to me about it, this one here, Ray was actually talking to me about it, and he was saying, this is like actually the best wine for like basically pizza. Because this pasta dish basically is like pizza. It has, it has the carbs, it has the tomato, it has the sausage or whatever. He recommended that, but he said because the Zinfandel has low tannins, then it would be great with the mustard greens. But then Ray also gave me a Sauvignon Blanc, and he said, because he didn't taste this before he gave it to me, he said, okay, this is either gonna be really, really good with this, or it's gonna be really, really bad with this. So I'm challenging James to taste these both with me and then tell me, we're gonna assume the red is delicious with this, but then we're gonna talk about the white and just see if it kind of works with this.
So with the white, kind of what we were going after there, and one of the things that we do, so in the flavor matrix, you guys saw, we do those beautiful graphics that are kind of a visualization of flavor, looking at that aroma wheel of different ingredients. But if you want to get super nerdy, make yourself a mad genius, you can go to the back, and we actually break down all the ingredients of the three most prominent compounds that create the flavor in each of those ingredients. So one of the things we really wanted to kind of attack here was the spice. The spice that comes from the greens and the spice that comes from the fennel in the sausage. So anethole, which is kind of this anise smelling compound that is part of a flavor compound in the greens, also in the fennel seeds that are in the sausage. We find that in Sauvignon Blanc as well.
Right.
So we're kind of looking at a little bit of a match between all of those compounds that should be kind of a through thread that carries these all together. And I also like this because it's got some big acidity, it's really crisp, and it should help kind of flush out some of that bitterness from the greens as well, and it should be kind of bright and refreshing and plus, we just saw you had that creme fraiche there. Which is beautiful because it gives it a really wonderful richness, but keeps it light at the same time.
Right, and that's kind of so when I first had to pair this recipe, yes, we do, actually. All right, thanks, James. Good thing you're here. All right, now look at me. This is a hot mess, ladies and gentlemen. This is a hot, mad genius mess.
And so there we go, guys. This is just food, right?
This is just food.
You vegetarians out there watching, don't think you can't make this. Justin was so ready to dish this up with no sausage in it whatsoever.
But what's so funny is I was stirring it and I was like, I don't remember it looking so full of pasta before when I first created this recipe. Okay, this will be mine because it's the dirty plate. All right, I'm gonna give you a better one. Okay, so if you're just tuning in, I've got my rigatoni here. It's got some beautiful sausage. It's got some cherry tomatoes. Of course, the creamy, I'm gonna do this here. Yep. The creamy creme fraiche, which actually kind of was my secret ingredient for making it pair with more wines because fat makes it pretty much, what does fat do for wine?
What is fat? Fat helps the wine really because it's going to kind of really make the wine pop every time you take a sip, right? Because you've got that fat, you've got kind of that richness coating, in your mouth, and then you take a sip of wine, you've got some big acidity, you've got tannins that are going to kind of flush that out and revive your tongue when you take a sip of that wine.
I'm gonna put this here so they could get close up of it. My pan is really messy. Do not judge me based on my pan. It was sliding all over the place. Get a close-up of that. My delicious pasta dish. Okay, so we're pairing it with this Zinfandel.
We're going Zin first, all right.
I mean, it's delicious. It's actually really fruity and
like you said, really, really low tannin, so it's very smooth.
Okay, but now
so to me, that's like a perfect complement for the pasta, right? I think what we might be going to here is kind of a counterpoint.
I'm going to show this. So this is a Sauvignon Blanc from I think New Zealand.
South Africa?
Oh, South Africa. And our executive wine editor Ray recommended that we try it with this because it's either going to be really good or really bad. So let's try this.
I like it a lot.
I like it a lot. It's actually really good at that.
It's got that big acidity, but you've got all of those kind of green aromas in the wine that go with all of the greens, that really complement the mustard greens.
And the acidity of the wine really kind of matches the acidity of the tomatoes and the creme fraiche that is in the pasta. I think it's a win-win. So we have 3 surprising pairings today. We have James pan-roasted snapper with his green apple, tomato, strawberry salsa, which you can get in his book, The Flavor Matrix. You can also get it in the comments. You can also get it at foodandwine.com and the April issue of Food and Wine. We also made my pasta with sausage and mustard greens because mustard greens are really hard to pair wine with, and we found 2 that work really well with the dish.
Really
so we have a Zinfandel and we have a South African Sauvignon Blanc. So we hope, so follow along using the hashtag MADGENIUSLIVE. Please cook these recipes. Please tag us on Instagram. Tag me at Justin Chapple. Tag at Food and Wine. Tag at
The Couple's Kitchen
because
on Instagram. Because my wife, the co-author of the book, who's also going to be the wine director of our new restaurant, we do all of these things together. She is running Crazy Run City right now, getting ready for our move down to Pensacola, Florida, when we're getting ready to open our restaurant in a few months. So do all of those things Justin said, and come see us in Pensacola at Angelina's. We're gonna be cooking up, really, actually, this pasta is something that could be on our menu. I like the Southern twist on a classic Italian dish. I really love that. I might be stealing it.
So hit us up, MADGENIUSLIVE, all across the internet, and you might be featured on next week's show. See you later, everybody.
Hey guys.
I'm gonna keep eating this.